Hello everyone, I'm glad to be here. My name is Bo Jackson. Okay, we're going to start off current, and then we're going to go backwards. Okay, currently, Mississippi Valley Christian School owns what used to be Western Military Academy. The school, Western was founded in 1879, closed in 1971. Mississippi Valley Christian School bought the school in 1978. Currently, it's for sale. They have land by Beverly Farms on Humbert, and they'd like to sell the school and move up to Humbert. Okay? Working with the mayor of Alton, a guy named Mike Ducliffe of Duke's Bakery. Mike graduated from Western in 1963. His brother Carl Ducliffe graduated from Western in 1960. Carl, any sports fans here, know that Carl was an all-state basketball player for Western Military Academy. Anyway, Mike Ducliffe came up with this wonderful idea. The school is currently for sale, and he had this idea, why not try to preserve some part of the campus? And so he talked to Mississippi Valley Christian School in the city of Alton, and they have what they're going to, an easement. They're going to put a pocket park where the front gate used to be a Western. This section here is now an easement to the city of Alton. Okay, next slide. On Saturday, May 25th, we're going to have a dedication for this monument that Mike Ducliffe's holding up, and the public's welcome to attend. We have a four-piece quartet from Scott Air Force Base is going to play. The Alton VFW is going to participate, and we're inviting graduates from all across the country, and actually the world, to come and attend. And it's open to the public. What they're going to do is they're going to put a monument at the front gate honoring Western, its traditions, and its graduates. This is going to make it what it looks like. Everybody see okay? Next. This is the way it looked a few weeks ago on mud. More mud. And this is what it was last weekend. So we poured a lot of concrete and get ready to put the monument in. Next. A little bit better. The easement goes from this section here all the way between the pillars. Okay, our story starts back in the 1830s, 1835 to be exact. There was a man named John Boston who was apparently very rich. He lived in Upper Alton. He had this lavish mansion built. In front of this mansion is a wrought iron fence. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Next. I'm not quite sure what happened to Mr. Boston. Eventually he lost his money and he sold the facilities. And eventually it was bought by Shortlift College. And the girls from Shortlift went to the building. That's where the name seminary came from. It's called Rural Park Seminary back then. Okay. This is an idea of what the state looked like. Here's the front gate, wrought iron fence. Gives you an idea of how majestic the buildings were. This is the way the front gate looks now. You can see it's losing a lot of its decorations and things like that. This is an early picture of the main building. Okay, this is from the National Historic Registry. Western is the anchor of the Upper Alton Historic District. It goes from Western all the way up to Upper Alton to where Shortlift used to be. It's now the SAU Dental School. And I highlighted a couple of points. One thing it talks about the wrought iron fence. It's a testament to the American Iron Worker from 1835. Of the original buildings from 1835, the one thing that stands is the wrought iron fence. Okay. It also talks about the building. And in the application for the National Historic Registry, the residency is called the most lavish estate west of the Alleghenies. That's how fancy the place was back in the 1830s. My great-grandfather, Colonel Albert Jackson, was in Pennsylvania, graduated from Princeton, and he was recruited to come west and teach at the school. In 1903, there was a massive fire. It was arson, and completely destroyed the building. You can see the fence here, and then also cut it. See the magnitude of how big it was. Extent. When the school burned, there was a decision whether to stay, close, or move on. People of Alton, Upper Alton particularly, united and encouraged my great-grandfather to rebuild the school. So the school was rebuilt in 1904. According to family history, the railroad station up Alton was rerouted so they could bring building materials to help rebuild the school. And this once again is at the same time we were doing the 1904 World's Fair. So we're kind of limited on workers and materials. And by the way, talk a little bit more of the architect, this guy named John Bonzik, and he did the Persian exhibit at the World's Fair. He's also a well-known architect from Grand City. He did a lot of buildings in Grand City. So anyway, they decided to rebuild the school, and this is what it looks like at the time. Mr. Bonzik built several facilities in St. Louis, including what used to be the Coliseum, which got tore down, and later became the arena, so they got tore down. This one was the now view. There's a color. You can see the school one time, we had a lake, with 2 ball fields, an upper field, lower field, 2 gymnasiums. We talked about earlier, Mr. Hill. This was burned down in 1947. You can tell this is the older one because it had a skylight on the roof. Of the buildings, these are the barracks where cadets live. Those A, B, C, D, and E. Upper lower gym, administration building. The only thing that remains now are half the gym, which is the lower gym, administration building, and the middle barracks, which is C barracks. Here's an aerial view from the campus in the 1960s. There's a back view from the fields looking up. There's a pond. A lot of people up Alton just come skate at the pond during the winter. Okay, these are the Jacksons. This is my great-grandfather, Albert Jackson. My grandfather, Leroy Jackson. My dad, Colonel R.B. Jackson, who used to be a Rotarian. Spent a lot of time in Woodward and East Alton Rotaries. He's mainly Alton, but one of the Rotaries around here likes to sing. And they can come down and sing a bunch. So if you like to do that, Miss Mountain Chuck used to teach history at Pacific Memorial after the school closed. This is a more recent picture of the school. There's a color photo of the front gate where the easement's going to go. This is the way the fence used to look like in the 1960s. The fountain is one of the few remaining structures still standing. Memorial Fountain. This is the senior circle. Back in those days, it was okay for people to smoke. So if you were a senior, you could go back to the senior circle and smoke. So it wouldn't apply very well today. That's this place for seniors to hang out. Western, in its heyday, was known as the West Point in the Midwest. The policies, the uniforms, the training was all based on West Point. Western was an honor military school. And being an honor military school, one graduate could go to any of the service academies without going through the bidding process. You automatically had one spot at any school. So a lot of our graduates went to Annapolis and West Point. Later on, the Air Force Academy, that's fairly new compared to West Point and Annapolis. We had our own tank back then. This is Mademoiselle. And the tank used to go in maneuvers with the cadets. They tore it down for scrap in World War II. Okay, a day of lived infamy. There's President Roosevelt, the cadet corps listening, my grandfather, Colonel Moore listening to the announcement. Western had a major role in World War II. One of us came back and said the war basically started with Butch O'Hare and ended with Paul Tibbets. Not exactly true, but the very first shots of American involvement in World War II had a Western connection. A lot of people don't realize that. General Short, who was blamed for Pearl Harbor, used to teach math at Western. He's the one that didn't prepare the troops. He did nothing with the warning. They had the radar, and they turned the radar off because they're scaring the birds. You know, everybody's seen the movies and stuff like that. So he's basically the scapegoat for Pearl Harbor. So it's interesting that Western had a connection to the very first involvement. Even though he's not a graduate, he did teach school at Western. This talks more about General Short. He's basically disgraced. He got thrown out of the service afterwards, and then he worked for a Ford Motor Company afterwards. Okay, this is the aircraft carrier at Lexington. This gives you an idea how big the aircraft carrier is. There's literally thousands of people on there. Fortune with the planes. Pearl Harbor was bad, but it could have been really bad. It wasn't really bad because they didn't get a single aircraft carrier. Had they got our aircraft carriers, it would have been very, very bad. Pacific is a wide, wide ocean. The Japanese were going all across the Pacific unstopped. The only way we could fight back is with aircraft carriers. You couldn't take land-based planes anywhere and fly them back. We had Doolittle's raid, which was a one-way ticket. They went, they didn't come back because of fuel. So the only way to take the battle to the Japanese was with aircraft carriers. So aircraft carriers were vital to our getting back. Okay. Remember, we're mad as hell. They attacked us, destroyed a bunch of our ships, our battleships. This saved us, the aircraft carrier. This is a picture of some of the Wildcats that were on the deck of the Lexington. Okay, in the early days of World War II, we were literally getting our posteriors kicked all the way across the Pacific. Japan was unstoppable. The news was nothing but bad. One day in the Coral Sea, we had 2 planes flying above the aircraft carrier Lexington. Also 9 heavily armed Japanese bombers approached. Between all the Japanese bombers, they had 63 guns and cannons. Each one of the planes had 3 turrets that could hit any place on the compass. So you couldn't go behind, you couldn't go under. Anywhere you went, they could put three guns on you. Okay. We had 2 planes against 63. Each of our planes had 4 50 caliber machine guns against their 63. One of the pilots is a guy named Butch O'Hare, who graduated from us in 1932. Butch and his wingman, they always fly in pairs, the wingman, went to attack the Japanese. And before he attacked, he fired a quick burst. Make sure everything's working, okay? So Butch fired. There's nothing from his wingman. His wingman's guns jammed. So now you got 1 plane, 4 guns against 9 bombers, 63 guns. Butch dove into the Japanese in a matter of seconds, shot down 5, and seriously damaged the 6th. Single-handedly saving the aircraft carrier Lexington by himself. Mathematically, you young kids, my young son loves to play video games, and you have endless amounts of bullets. Okay, fighters don't have very many bullets. They're light, they're fast, and they don't have a whole lot of ammo. So you can't waste your ammo on planes. So what he did is almost mathematically impossible. He shot down 5 heavily armed bombers, averaging less than 60 rounds per plane. It was absolutely incredible. Okay, next slide. This talks more about Butch and how gun he was. Okay, next. For his honor, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. And the thing that's interesting is Butch graduated from Western. His family lived in St. Louis. And there's nothing in St. Louis to honor Butch's memory. The only thing you know about Butch O'Hare is Chicago, O'Hare Field is named after Butch. Now, why do you say that? Butch's dad was an attorney who somehow got the patent for a mechanical rabbit for dog racing. And you got dog racing, you got Chicago, you got Alton. Butch's dad was involved with the mob. And supposedly, Butch's dad helped build the case against Al Capone, because we all know they got him on income tax evasion, not for anything else. Payback is hell. And Butch's dad was knocked off with a couple shotgun blasts to the head. Okay? So anyway, Butch, just to give you an idea of the history, okay? Won the Medal of Honor. He came back to one thing we did real quick is we learned to save our best pilots. We brought our best pilots back to teach the young pilots. The Japanese and the Germans didn't. If you're a good pilot, you flew until you got killed or shot down. We brought our best pilots back to teach tactics. So Butch came back and taught our guys how to go against these Japanese bombers, and more importantly, how to go against their fighters, because their fighters are faster than ours. And so the idea was you always kept your gun always in front of you, wherever they were, and you had a better chance to survive, rather than trying to wing and duck around. Okay? So he came back, went across the United States, training our pilots how to fight the Japanese. They had a parade for Butch in downtown St. Louis, where they said it was almost as big as the parade for Charles Lindbergh. It was that big of a deal back then. Remember, we had no heroes back then. Pearl Harbor had happened shortly before. Japan was unstoppable. Here's a guy who came back and said, we can do it. Butch wanted to get back in the fight. We don't like our heroes going in the fight. But the United States relented and let him go back. So the Japanese by then had learned tactics. They learned that the firepower in the carrier was too strong during the day. What they did is they attacked our carriers at night. when we were vulnerable. So Butch perfected night fighting off a carrier. It had never ever been done before, launch off a carrier at night. It's very tricky going off a carrier during the day. They move, let alone at night, you can't see where you're going. Anyway, he formed a group called the Black Panthers. This time he was on the aircraft carrier Enterprise. So late one night, radar beat, Japanese bombers headed towards Enterprise. So Butch and his Black Panthers group squadron launched, fought off the Japanese. He was never seen again. I have no idea what happened to Butch. They assume he maybe got shut down by his own guys. They don't know. But he was going to be nominated for a second Medal of Honor. And then he kind of put that off to the side, like that guy in Afghanistan, the Cardinal. They don't like rewarding people who got killed by their own troops, so they kind of brushed it aside. But he would have been nominated for a second Medal of Honor. That's the second aircraft carrier he saved. So it's like Amelia Earhart, but it doesn't get the publicity because no one knows what happened to Butch. And there's nothing in St. Louis to honor him. So it's one of the reasons why this memorial is so important coming up the next. It goes down Pacific Battle, that's all we know. Okay, the next person I want to talk about is General Paul Tibbets. General Tibbets graduated from Western a year behind Butch, so he graduated in '33. He learned to fly at a young age. His family spent a long time in Florida, and unbeknownst to his parents, he'd go off with this guy who had a biplane, and Tibbets would get in the back of the plane and throw candy out the back of the plane to people on the beach. His dad wanted Tibbets to become a doctor. Tibbets loved flying, and he and his father had a disagreement and didn't speak ever since over the career. So Tibbets went into the service. Back then, fighters were sexy. You go fast, you shoot, you do things. Bombers are slow in the air arena, it's just not sexy. But Tibbets thought that he wanted to be a bomber pilot, and much to everybody's surprise. So he went to flight school, and he was at the top of his class. People thought he was a gifted pilot. And they were shocked. He said, no, I want to fly bombers. I'm not really into fighters. So he flew with fighters. So one of his first assignments in World War II was to fly General Mark Clark to Gibraltar. At the time, as you know your history, Germans had taken over France and put in their own VC government. And we were about ready to invade North Africa. So the question was, were the French going to fight us or join us or unoppose us on North Africa? So Tibbets flew General Clark to Gibraltar to meet with the French to find out how they were going to defend us or join us. Fortunately, they did not fight us and were able to land safely in North Africa. So that was a crucial mission for Tibbets. His next big mission was to fly General Eisenhower on D-Day from England to Gibraltar, because Eisenhower wanted to witness the invasion personally. When they landed in Gibraltar, they were amazed at the bottom of this plane. It was all white, pasty. They couldn't know what's wrong with this plane. Well, it was salt from the ocean spray. It flew so low over the ocean that the bottom of the plane was covered with salt because they wanted to evade German radar. Eisenhower, unbeknownst to most people, was also a pilot. He thought Tibbets was one of the best pilots he ever flown with his entire life. Okay. Fast forward a few more months later, we're starting to bomb Germany, but with Churchill and everybody, got to do it at night. Can't see what the hell you're doing. You're dropping dumb bombs to just gravity. Don't know what you're hitting, but we're just going to drop everything and we'll try to hope to do something. Tibbets went to his superiors and said, let's try daylight flying. They said, no, it won't work. But Tibbets was able to convince his leadership to try it. So Tibbets led and planned the first daylight bombing over occupied Europe, and it was a success. So then our ratios of flights to destruction went up considerably. Later on, Tibbets was pulled from the fight, sent out west to a Boeing facility, helped with a new bomber, the B-29. The B-29 was the most expensive military procurement at the time. And they were cranking out like crazy. They had one plane, there was a flight crew, test crew, and it crashed. So they had all these B-29s coming off the flight production line, but didn't know how to fly the things. So Tibbets was assigned to go figure out how to fly these things. So Tibbets went out to the airfield and said, hey, you know how to fly these? No. Well, neither do I. Get in. So he got in and eventually mastered the plane and got very good at it. So eventually Tibbets taught every single B-29 pilot. Eventually he formed a flight school and then they trained all the rest of the pilots. It's kind of interesting thing. Later, he was assigned to the Enola Gay project, or the Manhattan project rather. And it's called the Manhattan project because they want people to know what it was. So if you came across the paper trail, you think they were fixing the sewers in New York City, not building the first atomic bomb. So Tibbets went out west, formed his own squadron, and the rest is history. He dropped the first atomic bomb in Japan. The name of his plane was Enola Gay, which he named after his mother. Next. After World War II, Tibbets came back to Western with his entire crew, and they had a parade for him in the Lord Field. There's Tibbets here visiting his old room in Boston. This is my aunt, Florence. She had 3 boys, they all graduated from Boston. 2 of the 3 were killed. One in a plane crash, one in the Philippines. Her sister had 1 boy, 2 girls. He was killed. So of the 9 grandchildren of Colonel A.M. Jackson, 3 of the 9 were killed in World War II. The reason why I say this is kind of significant. This gentleman here is Samuel Van Oker, famous TV commentator, used to be the White House correspondent. He narrated the first Nixon-Kennedy debate. He's also on the History Channel once in a while. This is my aunt getting the medal for my uncle being killed. And this little guy here, that's my cousin Rob. We'll talk a little bit more about Rob later. Next. These are the chapel windows. I got some pictures over there. This is in honor of the 3 cousins that were killed in World War II. Any Wood people here? Wood Armory. It's the Albert Jackson Ellison Army Depot, which is the city Wood just took over. That was named after my uncle. I'm not sure what happened to the sign. I was there the other day to check on it. It's gone. But this is named after my uncle. And the significance of that is his son Rob was a little baby, graduated from Western in '63. Because his dad was killed in World War II, he was exempt from Vietnam. Rob went to Florida college in Florida, got interested in photography. He got involved in the civil rights movement. And he was there with Martin Luther King on the March through Selma, all through Alabama. In many cases, he was the only white person there. And the black people were more worried about Rob because he was more of a target than the blacks were, because he was photographing their case. And a lot of his photographs were made Ebony and Jet magazine back then. Okay. This is another chapel window. This is for the Iwo Jima. This is another one. And the interesting about these windows is they were all destroyed. A kid playing hooky from East Junior High in the early '70s went and smashed most of them. There's hardly anything left of them. They were made by an architect in St. Louis called Emil Freer, who's a famous architect in St. Louis. This plaque is in honor of Howard Humphreys, who graduated from Western in '35, I think. He was a national champion diver. In all his meets in high school, he only lost 2 first places. He went to nationals and he got 3rd place in the nationals. He went to the Philippines at the start of the war. And he led the Philippine guerrilla resistance against the Japanese. Eventually, he was captured and put into a prison, and they were forced to work in the rice paddies and things like that. So he would have diving contests with the Japanese when they're taking baths and stuff. And he actually beat the Japanese. It's kind of humbling for the Japanese to actually have an American that's actually better than he was. He was on a prisoner of war ship where they were literally starving the troops to death, but they also put ammo on there. So they used prisoners of war as kind of a decoy, so human shields, if you will. Eventually, it was torpedoed, and the ship sank, and Howard Humphreys went out, malnutrition, went out and saved several other people from the ship from drowning. He eventually died from malnutrition and from this exertion he did saving all of his fellow prisoners. He was nominated for Medal of Honor. It was like 2 weeks after the war ended, and he just got out. It was a true tragic story. This is a bronze replica of all the graduates from Western Soil War II. show all the awards. I lost my categories. You'll notice somewhere in there, there's a wall of hail, at least once, maybe twice, no more. Remember, Western only had 300 cadets at one time. That's grades 7 through 12. So the largest class would be 30 people or less. During the Depression, it would be a lot less than that. So it's pretty incredible how many officers and generals, etc., in such a small school. And these guys were officers 1 year after graduating from high school. They were so desperate for officers.
That was Don Hale. My dad was Don Hale, his cousin did.
Oh, okay.
He flew over Europe.
I knew it.
He's 17, Japanese.
Did you see him on there?